Hey folks, on the workbench right now we've got this cool little 60s amp. As you can see, it's labeled Airline. Well, this is an interesting little amp. So let's first start off with who made it. Alright, now as we spin the amp around, this top control plate is a dead giveaway. What we have here, although we are being blinded by the light. What we have here, we have two inputs, standard and treble. We've got our volume and tone, and the volume is also the on-off switch. And we have a tremolo speed control, which is the on and off switch, and the speed, and uses a foot switch. And then we've got our little 2-fuse amp, but if you see on the top here, there are no markings as to what this amp is. The tolex, so we know that it's labeled Airline, but we see this tolex. This is commonly found on Gretches of this era, except there'd be the big old silver G knobs here. So we have a Valco. This is the legendary 1616T. I've already started to go inside here, so I've taken off all the screws. So we're going to take the back off. You can get a good look at what's going on inside here. And so I've been inside, like I said before, and we're going to have to do some... The tremolo isn't working. You'll see some of these caps are pretty... That one's already leaking. You know, that one needs to be replaced right there. And we'll go ahead and replace the big old can. That's right back there. And you can see a couple other things that you will see about this is there is the death cap still wired in. And this cord is the original cord, but at one point in time, the end was replaced with this guy. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the death cap, and we'll add the 3-prong grounded cord into here. 4 tubes in the back. These are your 2 preamps, 12AX7s, a 6V6 power tube, and then a 5Y3 rectifier tube, all typical of your Valco from this era. As I said, I was inside these pots. So this is where it's interesting. This amp, the 16T by Valco, commonly also known as the Supro 16T, the Gretsch 6150T, or the later version, I believe, is the 6151. That's the schematic that I actually have for this, is the Gretsch 6151. But it is the exact same amp. As you can see from our schematic here. And I also have all the other models. This, when it was sold by Airline, is the 62-9029A. CTS pots date this, the pots date to the 49th week of 1966. The transformer that's on the inside that I was able to look at, I believe that was like the 4th or so, maybe 12th week of 67. Now, the serial number, Airline typical serial number here, there we go. Starts with a 2. And there's our other dead giveaway. This was Valco. This actually, unfortunately, the fuse is not in there, but the envelope is still attached. So serial number starts with a 2. That's going to put us in that that later 67, 68, 66 to 68, 68. It'll put us in the correct. Anyway, everything in here seems to be original and correct and dates date codes are where they're supposed to be. Now here's the craziest part about this whole thing. Is this speaker. If you can read that quite so well inside here, but if I roll it up like this into the light, maybe you can get it a little bit better. But that says 7442Q, and on the side there it says made in England, and right inside here on your terminals it says Celestion. So this is a 10-inch legendary 7442 speaker. These amps typically came with an 8-inch Jensen, or I think it's a Rola, like a 6x9 or a 5x8, usually an oval speaker. And as we see on our schematic here, there are two different transformer models depending on the speaker, the 2640 or the VAC 109. We have the VAC 109 mounted inside here. So as you can see, those are the screws for that hold the back panel there. That's just so that we don't lose them. This grill cloth was never removed or restapled or cut. This panel matches the staining and materials, and it's the proper grill cloth for a Gretsch. It's just I've never seen an example with this 10-inch speaker, especially this 10-inch Celestion, and everything. Like I said, the date codes, all seem to line up. So we've got a bit of a strange unicorn here. When this thing is fully functional, she's gonna rip. Little 5-watt Terror, commonly referred to as the Fender Champ Killer. The first thing that when we fired it up, we noticed, you can see I've got a replacement 6v6 in there, is that here's the original tube, original RCA. Somehow, sometime, that center pin got snapped out, and it's not inside the chassis anywhere, which means that it happened. Somebody took it out and then put it back in, which is kind of weird. It was making all sorts of fuzz and farting sounds. I thought the speaker had been blown at first. You know, so just a reminder, always check your tubes first. So there we are so far. Like I said, we're going to replace some capacitors, get this tremolo section working again, maybe a resistor or two. I haven't gone inside to completely start metering everything, but just on the visual, there's a couple capacitors here that are going to need to be changed out anyway. So, all right, we'll be back. All right, we're just wrapping up a couple things here on this Valco 1616T. Replaced a couple of the capacitors already that were giving us some problems. This thing's a pain in the ass to work on. Had to take apart half the amp just to get to a couple wires. Here's the little light. That had to come out. Replaced the electrolytic capacitors as well. And we modified this a little bit here. And so, a couple other things left to do, and then we'll be done with this one. Okay, we're back now. We've replaced onto all three capacitors in the tremolo section. Also replaced one bad resistor. Here's all the parts that we pulled out. It's pretty interesting. The tremolo section that's in there, it's 0.01, 0.01, and then the schematic says 0.03, and somebody gave us a 0.01 and a 0.02 together, and that 2.2K resistor was bad as well. So that combined with a couple cold solder joints right up in through here, cleaned up all of the hum, buzz, and hiss. The only thing that's left to do is convert this back to the 3-prong cord, but this thing, crank this all the way up and crank the tone all the way up. You can sort of hear that riz as I bring the phone closer to this. So now, let's see, volume is all the way up. We'll bring this down because it's kind of loud for 5 watts. And turn the tremolo on. And there we have it. Back to life again. We'll just put everything back together, add the 3-prong cord plug, and we're done. Alright, we're just about ready to wrap up the Supro 16T Gretsch 6151 Airline, this Valco amp. We have everything all fixed now. There's a bunch of replaced pieces here. We've got several resistors. We've got 1 resistor and several capacitors, including the death cap right here. We've repaired the tremolo section, instead of all brand new tubes, and cleaned the pots, and then rewired for a grounded 3-prong plug. See, there's our ground wire to the chassis. Black wire goes to the fuse and the power switch over to here, and the white wire is connected to the neutral leg of the transformer, and then there's some shrink tubing over there then to keep everything all nice and safe. So we've just doing our final once-over inspection. Here is the guitar without the tremolo. We managed to source the original foot switch for the amp as well, and when we click it, we've got tremolo, and the switch itself also works. So just gonna put it all back in the cabinet and seal it all up, and we'll be good to go. All right, we've got the amp all back together, all buttoned up. End up noticing that this guitar is actually kind of noisy, not the amp itself. However, try to hold the other hand there. And we've got the original foot switch hooked up here. Got everything all cleaned up. New cable has been added and secured as well. There are a couple of those retaining clips inside. And so this old gal is now back to, actually, no, she's a little bit better than when she left the factory, let's see, in 1967.